عليكم السلام. وعليكم السلام.
Hey, Sheikh, you okay?
Alhamdulillah, how you doing? You alright?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Let me know what time you want to go live. It's 7:15 now. Did we say 7:30 or do you want to have an earlier start?
Yeah, 7:15. Just give me 1 minute, inshallah.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, 1 second. Wa alaikum assalam. Amani, Sadia, how are you?
It's called Prosper.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Starting, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أما بعد, a warm welcome to all attendees. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters joining us from HMC. Warm welcome. We are continuing on with our tafsir, and alhamdulillah, by the grace and the mercy of Allah, we are going through Surah Al-Baqarah, okay? And we have got to the verses which are dealing with magic, okay? The verses dealing with magic. Last week, alhamdulillah, we managed to start the discussion and look at the historical background of magic, where it comes from, okay? So for those who are following, we're on verse number 102. Okay, let's have a read of the ayat, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس سحر وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت وما يعلمان من أحد حتى يقولا إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر فيتعلمون منهما ما يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه وما هم بضارين به من أحد إلا بإذن الله ويتعلمون ما يضرهم ولا ينفعهم ولقد علموا لمن اشتراه ما له في الآخرة من خلاق ولبئس ما شروا به أنفسهم لو كانوا يعلمون. Respected listeners, that was verse 102 in Surah Al-Baqarah, which we started with last week. And a quick summary or recap of what we took so far, and then we can jump straight into the new material. We had a look at the essence of magic. What is the definition of magic? We said linguistically, magic is to hide something. We said Islamically, and this was very, very important, Islamically, what does magic mean? And I wanted everyone to make notes of this, was that magic was to evoke the aid of the jinn in order for them to do something for you. Okay, so evoking the jinn world in order for a favor from you. We also said that if we want to look at magic, we need to go back to two main stories in the Quran. We need to have a look at the story of Moses, Musa alayhi salam, and Fir'aun. And the second major story is that which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, which we are looking at now. Okay, this will really explain to us the issue of magic. Furthermore, we also said the ayat وَاتَّبِعُوا مَا تَتْلُو عَلَى مُلْكِ سُلَيْمَانَ, that it is during the time of Sulaiman alayhi salam that Bani Israel, they would recite things that they, or verses that they had heard from the shayateen, from the jinn. And they tried to attribute this to Sulaiman, saying that Sulaiman is the father of magic, that he teaches us magic and it is from him. But this is totally incorrect, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains to us further, وَمَا كَفَرَ سُلَيْمَانُ وَلَكِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ كَفَرُوا, that it's not Sulaiman who would recite such things. Rather, it is you who did that, and you got that from the shayateen. Sulaiman is free from any form of magic. And then Allah says, وَمَا كَفَرَ Sulaiman. And this is really important, because the kafara, which is directly connected to magic, what led a person to commit kufr was the fact that they engaged in magic. So we learn a principle here that magic is kufr. You leave the fold of al-Islam by going into magic. Okay. We then further looked at the story of Sulaiman in detail, the fact that he had the ability to control the jinn, the animals, the wind, and this is what really led people to think, or the Bani Israel led them to think that he had some kind of supernatural powers, and how did he achieve that? That was through jinn communication, and we know that that was totally incorrect. Okay, that was totally incorrect. Assalamu alaikum, Hassan. Yeah, so totally incorrect. Furthermore, then we continued and we looked at the purpose. Allah explained to us very clearly that the magic came down to two angels. One was Harut and the other was Marut. And this was the fitna of that time. So without going into too much detail, but it was the fitna of that time, that the two angels had the ability to teach people this art, dark art. And, and they were told that people don't approach us. Okay, if you approach us, you will get misled. So don't approach us, but people will still approach and learn. Okay, but the angels would give a disclaimer before they would teach. They would say, وَمَا يُعَلِّمَانِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ حَتَّى يَقُولَا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. They would say very clearly to anybody approach them that we are a fitna. A fitna is a test or a trial. We are a fitna, a test and a trial. So don't come near us. Stay away from us. And if you come near us, then you will commit the crime of kufr. And that's explicitly mentioned in the verse. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we learned the essence or the purpose behind magic. Why do people get involved in magic? What do they want to achieve? The primary goal, there's many, we'll talk about that today, inshallah. And hopefully today we'll have plenty of time for question and answers as well. So please, anyone with questions and answers, I know there's going to be loads. So we'll give at least a good 15 or 20 minutes for questions. Anyway, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, فَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ مِنْهُمَا مَا يُفَرِّقُونَ بِهِ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَالزَّوْجِ. So the primary reason to why anybody would indulge in magic is to split husband and wife, is to break relationships, especially between spouses. Okay, so people are jealous. People, somebody wants that man, she likes this guy, and she wants him to marry her, or the girl. Likewise, the jealousy that takes place between marriages and couples. Then this is the essence of magic, why people would indulge in magic. We further then looked at these two angels, Harut and Marut, and we said that the source or the origin of all magic goes back to Babylon. Babylon is Iraq, the most ancient civilization, going back to Babylon. Okay, and we also said that various forms of magic that we see today, real magic, we're not talking about rabbits out the hat, we talk about fake magic, this kind of stuff, we don't apply the ruling of kufr on that. So anybody who pulls rabbits out of hats or plays with cards or dice or things like that, that's not magic, that's just trickery. Okay, that's just trickery, that's different. But we're talking about real magic where people evoke the jinn in order for evoke the jinn for some kind of a purpose. This is what is known as magic, and that's the topic, that's what we're discussing. Okay, so we had to look at that they want to split people up, they want to cause harm. But we also said that Allah says, وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, that even though a person may go to a sorcerer or try to do magic and so on and so forth, but no one can really cause harm or cause magic except if Allah wills. And we have to attach with the ayah as well that Allah also tells us, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. So if a person has symptoms of magic or sihr or something like that, one should not think, oh, Allah hates me, Allah is cursing me, this is too difficult, why is Allah doing this to us? No, rather, one should understand the hikmah is with Allah, the wisdom is with Allah, but one should understand that irrespective of the test, we will pass this test. We have the ability to pass this test, okay? That Allah does not burden a soul more than it can handle. Okay, good. So we learned that as well, and we also learned the various forms of magic. So we have, magic being done in India. Okay, certain Hindu tribes and rituals, they consist of magic. We looked at some of the Jews, and we mentioned the music industry and the issue of Kabbalah. This is also magic. Some of the Muslim saints, some of the extreme, and I make sure extreme, okay, like Sufis, really extreme, like some of the things they do, okay, that's also involving magic. But they all go back to Babylon. They all go back to the source. Okay. We also made mention that in the ayah Allah says, وَمَا يُعَلِّمَانِ, that they do not learn. Okay. And he said learning equals kufr. So if learning it equals kufr, then what about practicing it? Okay. Obviously that's much worse. So anything to do with magic, we have to abstain. Learning it, watching it, doing it, just abstain. Okay. It's not something that a Muslim gets involved in. Okay, so we abstain. Likewise, then we looked at a real example to show people that magic is real. Okay, and we looked at the hadith found in Bukhari and Muslim about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we went into that into great detail. I'm not going to go into that now. If you want to review that, I recommend you go to part 1 of Black Magic. Inshallah, the links will be provided. You can see them. They're on the WhatsApp groups or on the YouTube page, so you can go back to the different parts of magic. And we looked at how the Prophet cured himself, how he became better as well from all of these fitan. Now, this type of magic in the modern world, we can call this the dark art, so we can call it black magic. Effectively, it is jinn communication. If there is no jinn involved, then it is not sihr. It is not the magic that we are discussing. Let's make that clear. Okay, if there's no jinn involved, it's not the magic that we are talking about. Now, magic involves jinn and involves a person who evokes the jinn. And this person is known as the sahir, or in our language, it is known as the magician. Now, many people seem to think that the magician has some really superpowers and he's able to subdue the jinn and get them to do what he wants. Now, I want everyone to make a note that this is absolutely incorrect. This is absolutely incorrect. The correct version is the other way around. The magician who needs the help of the shayateen is actually submissive to the jinn. He is subservient to the jinn. He is the weaker of the two. He is not the strong one. Rather, he is absolutely submissive. Okay, that's a very important point. And we also looked at the abilities of the jinn. We said that they were made out of smokeless fire, which makes them invisible. We said they can take forms, they can change shape. We also said that they can project their voice, so they can, if they want to be heard, we can hear. So when you might be walking in the house at night or walking down the road, you hear some weird noise, it's nothing scary, it might be a jinn. You just heard his voice. We said also they can see us, but we can't see them. And we also said the fact that they are stronger than us. But what's also important to know at this point here is the fact that who is superior, the jinn or mankind? What did we say last week? Who can tell me? Who is superior, jinn or mankind? You can type it. You can put your hand up. Okay, Humaira, let's get this mouse moving. Yep, very good. So Humaira, well done. Mankind are superior, and what made them superior to? Well done, G. Mashallah, nice name. And what made humans good? Hassan, mankind. And what makes mankind superior? Okay, very good. Yeah, we have knowledge. Allah's given us insight. We have the ability to do things that they weren't able to do. We can go to the moon, we can build bridges, we can build dams, we can go into the water, we can do all sorts of stuff. Allah's given us intellect. And subhanAllah, this topic always amazes me. That Allah has given us intellect. The very first word that was revealed in the Quran was what? Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read. Read. We were meant to be a nation, a people of intellect, a people that read, the people that study, a people that learn, a people that revive sciences. But if I was to ask you all, An embarrassing question. Don't answer it, but answer it in your head. What was the last book that you read? I'm really scared to hear the response to that question. Or when was the last time you picked up the Quran? Hopefully, because it's Ramadan, that you have started reading the Quran. But prior to that, Quran sits on the highest shelf with the best cover. We just keep looking at it, and that's as much as it gets. When we're meant to be a nation that reads and studies, intellect is what makes us different to the animals, makes us different to the jinn. Okay, but if we don't use the intellect, then we will be even worse than the animals. Nevertheless, then we also said that what the different types of magic. Okay, we said magic was to break up relations. Marriage maybe to cause a business to fail. Somebody's jealous that your business is doing better than theirs. Magic can be to cause people to have a miscarriage. They don't want someone to have children. All these things are possible, and they're not supernatural. We just said that the jinn have things, they have abilities to do things that we can't. So, for example, if let's say a sister, Allah protect her, but let's say the sister had a miscarriage. Now they don't have any supernatural powers, so they may have caused her harm. They may have hit her in the stomach, or they may have done something that caused her to have a miscarriage. Nothing supernatural in that sense. Okay, so that's how they do things. Now the next question is, this is new now. The next question is, why would the jinn do that? If the jinn, they also worship Allah, they recognize Allah, they will go to Jannah and they will go to hell depending on their actions. So why would they do that? Why would they commit kufr? The humans commit kufr, but why would they commit kufr? Because we know that Allah tells in the Quran, when Allah tells about shaitan, He says shaitan, the main one, Iblis, shaitan. Then under shaitan, he has a mafia. Okay, that's the best way to understand it. And this mafia is known as shayateen al-ins or shayateen al-jinn. There are people amongst humans that look like humans, but they're actually shayateen, the devils, mass murderers, pedophiles, whatever. The people whose heads, they're just sick in the head, okay? These people, they are devils, walking devils. Likewise within the jinn, some of them are worshipping Allah, they pray 5 times a day, they do zakat, they're fasting like we are fasting, everything like us. And some of them are shayateen, they're really evil, okay? So they commit kufr just like some of the humans do, okay? So they want from the people to also commit kufr. Their objective in all of this is to take as many people astray as they can, to make as many people commit kufr and leave Islam, or be as far away as possible from Islam. That is their main goal. That is their main objective. Okay, so we understood their objective and what it is that they want. Okay, the relationship as well between the jinn and between the magician. We said, number one, the magician is the weaker one. He is a subservient one to the jinn. Number two, the jinn has the ability to do what he wants. The jinn has the ability to do what he wants. And I'll prove that to you. When, in certain parts of the world, we find that when a magician wants to do magic, what does the jinn command him to do? He says, in order for the magic to work, what do I want? He says, I want you to go bring me, astaghfirullah, like a baby. Or want you to go bring me the neck of a giraffe, or I want you to go bring me the toe of that person. They come with the most absurd things, They have no need for these absurd things, but they want to do this purposely, intentionally, to do what? To humiliate the magician, to humiliate mankind, who they have inferiority complex, or to humiliate mankind and to take their humiliation to the level where they commit kufr. And I'll explain how they do that as well. Okay, so this is what they want. No one has the ability, brothers and sisters, please understand this point. No one has the ability to control the jinn. No magician has the ability to control jinn. How do we know that? Can anyone relate? Can anyone think what we've taken so far? What would prove to us that no one has the ability to control the jinn? It's a deep question. How do we know that no one has the ability to control the jinn? Okay. Disbelieving jinn or shayateen. Good. I'll answer it because of time. Simple. Because the only one, okay, the only person who was able to control the jinn was Sulaiman. Sulaiman made a dua to Allah, Allah, give me that which no other has been given. And then Allah gave him the ability to control the jinn. But Sulaiman controlled the jinn, very good, Azim. Sulaiman controlled the jinn without magic. And he was the only one who was able to control the jinn. Therefore, magic does not mean you control the jinn. It means the jinn control you. Okay, so that's the important part. Okay, good. So hopefully that point was clear. So why do jinn do this? Okay, why do jinn do this? You can make a note of that. The reason why jinn do this, very simple. It's a business transaction. And I repeat, it's a business transaction. Why is it a business transaction? The magician wants something and the jinn wants something. Okay, good. Well done. The magicians want something and the jinn wants something. What does the jinn want? The jinn, he wants you to commit kufr. He wants you to disbelieve in Allah. He wants to humiliate you. He wants to show you that he is superior and you are inferior. Okay, the jinn does not want money. He has no interest in money or wealth. Rather, he wants to humiliate you because of the superior qualities that you have to him. Okay, and in the end, he wants you to be misguided and to leave the fold of Islam. Okay, this is the end objective of the shayateen. Now, the jinns, they will trade. Okay, the jinns, they will trade with you. They will say, okay, if you're willing to do kufr and you're willing to humiliate yourself, then we will help you in giving you that which you want. So they make a trade with them. Okay, and this trade involves some really nasty things. That's really a bit embarrassing to even make mention of, but they effectively want a person to commit kufr. And the magician, they make him do some really embarrassing things. Anybody who may have read about magic or has some insight about magic or been to ruqya, these kind of things would understand what I'm about to say. Those who haven't, Allah has protected you, so there's no need to go into that. But the jinn, they ask from the magician some really crazy things to humiliate him. Number one, we said maybe blood sacrifice. So maybe the killing of babies, maybe the killing of people. The jinn ask for these kind of things in order for, look, we will do what you're saying. We will separate that woman and that man. You know, they won't love each other anymore. But in order to do that, we want you to kill this baby. We want you to kill this person. We want you to do some crazy things. And people do that in order for the spell to work. Likewise, they may ask them to, bring bones of certain animals or bones of people and say, look, we need the bone of this particular thing in order for the magic to work. Likewise, they may ask for trivial matters like hair or skin or nails. So if they want to do magic on a person, they will ask for nails. And this is very common because this is what happened to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that when magic was done on him, they did it with his hair. Okay, so if you find hair in weird places in your house, under the pillow, or nails in weird places in your house or other things like that, then there's a possibility somebody's attempting to do magic on the owner of that hair and nails. Okay, so we have to be very, very careful with disposing of these things. Likewise, they may even ask the person to go to the graveyard. You'll see many magicians, may Allah protect us, but many of these magicians, they actually spend time in the graveyard. They sleep in the graveyard, they live in the graveyard, simply so that the jinn, they humiliate the magician, okay, in order for the magician to get what he wants, okay? All right. Furthermore, some of the even more grosser things that the jinn will ask the magician to do, and this is the embarrassing point, but I don't know how else to explain it without mentioning it, but the jinn will even go to the point where they will make you commit kufr and make you do really nasty things. From among some of the really nasty things they will ask you to do is they will ask you to bring forth menstrual blood. And I've even heard of stories, a'udhu billah, may Allah protect us, but the jinn have even asked some of the magicians to write verses of the Quran with menstrual blood. Like, subhanAllah, how sick is that? They would ask those kind of things. Or they would even ask the magician, astaghfirullah al-azim, to stand on the Quran. They would ask the magician to prostrate to things, beings, okay, in order for them to do what they want. Or even we hear of stories that they ask, astaghfirullah, that they will ask the magician to urinate or defecate on the Quran, okay, do some really gross things like that. Even we've heard of signs of, asking them to eat human beings, dishonor the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all these disgusting things, just in order for the magic to work. The jinn wants you to make kufr. This is why it's called kufr. The jinn want you to leave the fold of Islam. They want you to go further away from Allah. Now here comes the question. Who's the first one? Who's going to hit the buzzer first? Okay, so yeah, astaghfirullah. So here's the question now. So we've understood what the jinn want. We said it's a transaction between the jinn and the magician. Okay, so the jinn, we've understood what they want. They want to disgrace you. Okay, they want you to make kufr, go away from Allah. What does the magician want? So we said it's a deal. So that's his part of the deal. What does the magician want? It's a one-word answer. Who can tell me? Umaira, the magician wants the magic, but more than that, I mean, why would he split people up? What does he get out of it? Somebody comes up to him and says, "Look, I love this girl." Good. Mikhail said money and dunya, and Hassan said power. Good. That's the answer. It all comes down to the one point, which is money. He wants money. When people go, may Allah protect us, but people go for taweez or they go for magic, what do you give the pir sahib? Or what do you give the magician? What do you give him? What does he walk away with? You give him money, you give him a backhander. You give him a little check, or I don't know, nowadays maybe you just tap the card. I don't know what happens nowadays, but maybe you tap the card. He wants money. The magician wants money, and in return, he wants position. Exactly. It all comes down to money. And we find, subhanAllah, that many politicians as well, or people in the music industry, they're involved in magic as well. Okay. Why? Because they want control of their field, and the magicians want money. So they engage with them. So when they're dealing with rich artists, they're making loads of money and also positions of power. Okay, so that they are recognized and they get positions of power. We find that many people in politics, they actually engage in magic in order for them to keep up with their position. So that's a very simple formula. There is nothing complicated. Yeah, subhanAllah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, it's disgusting. But there's nothing complicated. That's the simple formula. Now, look at the time when Musa alayhi salam, and I'm going to prove to you now, when Musa alayhi salam and Pharaoh, when they were about to get into the battle, and Musa said to Pharaoh said to Musa, bring yourself, and we're going to bring the best of our magicians, and we'll have a battle, a standoff, and we'll see whose magic or whose power is strong, your Lord or my magic, my sorcerers, who's going to be stronger and better. So Pharaoh, he went and collected, it said, over 70,000 of the best magicians of his time. And Musa and Harun were on one side, 70,000 of the best magicians were on one side. Can you imagine the battle? SubhanAllah. And the magicians, they said to Pharaoh, they said to him, so وَجَاءَ سَحْرَةُ فِرْعَوْنَ. The magicians, they came to Pharaoh, said, look, you want us to do this deal. You want us to battle with Musa. He's a tough opponent. Okay. They said, what do we get out of it? Said, وَجَاءَ سَحْرَةُ فِرْعَوْنَ قَالُوا إِنَّا. And then they said, so what is it for us? So Fir'aun قالوا إِنَّنَا لَنَا لَأَجْرًا إِن كُنَّا نَحْنُ غَالِبِينَ. That Pharaoh was clever. He said, look, if you're successful, I will give you ajr. What's ajr? Ajr is, I'm going to give you money. I'll give you gold. I'll give you positions. So he said to the magicians, if your magic is better than his, I will give you ajr. I will give you money. But he didn't just stop there. He said, قَالَ نَعَمْ. Yes, I will give you money. وَإِنَّكُمْ لَمِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ. I'm not just going to give you money, but I'm also going to give you something else. You're going to be the most closest people to me. You're going to become members of my parliament. You'll become MPs. You'll become governors in my state. I'll give you positions. They said, yes, we agree. We accept. We'll get money and we get positions. That's effectively what the magician wants. And he's willing, in order to make this money and position, to sell his religion and commit all sorts of atrocities in order to do that. So that's the main point. Okay, I want you to understand that. But going back to that story, because it's very interesting, that when the battle took place and the magicians, they took their sticks and they threw them on the ground and they turned into snakes, the people were amazed. Wow, it was a huge day, everyone watching, and their sticks had turned into snakes. Then it was Musa's turn. Musa alayhi salam, he had his stick and Allah told him to throw his stick. Musa threw his stick and his stick turned into a serpent and he ate all the other serpents. When the magicians, they saw this, they said, وَأُلْقِيَ سَحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. That when the magicians of Pharaoh saw what they just saw, all of them just fell. They couldn't control themselves. They fell into sujood. They fell into prostration. Why? Because they knew what they're doing is trickery. They're just messing about with jinn. They're just playing games. But what he did was not magic. They knew it themselves because they were learned. Allah says, وَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. They just dropped and they went into sajda. قَالُوا, and they stood up and they said, قَالُوا, we are going to say something. آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. We believe in the Lord of the universe. They changed their religion immediately. They refused Pharaoh and they took the religion. They said, who is this? They said, Rabbi Musa wa Harun. Subhanallah. They said, we believe in the Lord and the God of Musa and Harun. This is not magic. What we just saw now is not magic. And for those who know the full story, after that, Pharaoh became angry, and because he's arrogant and has got lots of pride and boastful, he took these magicians and he gave them one more chance. He said, turn back to worshipping of me. They refused. They said, no, Rabbi Musa wa Harun, that's the true God. And then Pharaoh, he pinned them up and he cut them from opposite sides, one arm and a leg from opposite sides, and he left them to die. Nevertheless, let's look at the next thing now. If you can write in your books, how can we detect magic? This was the question I was asked. How can we detect magic? So magic, brothers and sisters, is not everything, first and foremost. Okay, we have to differentiate between mental illnesses and actual magic. Now, some of the clear signs of magic, things are extremely obvious. Okay, if you see someone flying across the room, and then you know this guy hasn't got high blood pressure, he's actually got some issues of magic, so you need to deal with that. So that's a very obvious sign. Likewise, things that might not be so obvious is things like ruqya. When you come to hearing the adhan, or when you come to listening to Quran, or when it comes to listening of the adhan, this person, he starts misbehaving. He starts to run around, he starts misbehaving, starts acting really weird. Every time you try to do something religiously orientated, this person becomes extremely uncomfortable and starts to become really abnormal. These are clear, these are signs, I'm not saying it is, but these are signs that he has influence of magic. Likewise, another one is when doctors, they don't know. How many times have people gone to the doctor and the doctor hasn't got a clue what you're talking about, and you're like, you explained everything, done the blood test, you've done the MRI scans, you've been checked, you went to a private doctor, private nurse, you've done everything you can, and we just don't understand what is happening. Okay, then there's a possibility that the person has sihr. At the same time, please remember that we have to exhaust all means of going to the doctor, getting checked out. Don't at home say, oh, subhanAllah, I got sihr, and just say, oh, no, we can't do that. Okay, we have to take the worldly means as well as the means of the deen of Islam. Likewise, marriage matters. Okay, so if, for example, husband and wife, they were very happy and they were intimate, they never had problems in intimacy, and then all of a sudden, they're starting to have serious intimate problems, it's just not happening, then in this case, one may consider or may think that there is some elements of magic happening here. Okay, also changing a person's mood or behavior. Somebody becomes angry or depressed just randomly out of nowhere. There's no reason for it whatsoever, and he's just angry or just depressed, always down, and it's not normal in this person's behavior. You know him to be a very jolly, happy person, but all of a sudden he's just become very sad, isolated, is some abnormal behavior. Or another point is that a person has a natural aversion to a person or a place. Like, for example, husband and wife, they're getting on really, really well. Okay, no, like most couples, they just get on. Okay, and not everyone's not 10 out of 10, but most people, they get on, alhamdulillah. So couples are getting on, but then all of a sudden, the husband, he doesn't want to be near the wife at all. Doesn't want to be in the same room, doesn't want to talk to her, doesn't want to see her. If she's up, he's down, she's down. Like, clearly there's something that he just doesn't want to be around her, or she doesn't want to be around him. It's the other way around. She tries to avoid him, she tries to stay away from him. And if it's this abnormal, it never used to happen. We used to sit together, we used to talk together, but it's just become abnormal. Now, obviously, if you just had a fight, or you've got issues, that's your marriage problems. You need counseling. But if it's an abnormality, then it could possibly have something to do with magic. Likewise, changing in eating and sleeping habits. Okay, if a person, has started to sleep too much, or excessive sleeping, or there's some problems with his sleep or his food, he never used to eat this food, now started eating complete. He's a really healthy guy and now started eating fast food. I don't know, some really abnormal changes in the person's eating and sleeping habits. Okay, another possible sign, is that the person stays awake all night. Okay, and then falls asleep 10 minutes before Fajr, so he misses the Fajr prayer. So another sign is that person stays awake all night and sleeps during the day. So there could be some problems there. Another sign are dreams. Okay, dreams have meaning, brothers and sisters. But the problem with dreams is that we are not qualified to interpret them. The Prophet ﷺ could interpret them. Yusuf alayhi salam could interpret them, but me and you, we can't, because there's no authentic knowledge which gives us the skills to do that. But if a person repetitively has some really frightening or crazy, absurd dreams, then there's a potential that there is some magic there. There is something. There is a potential. Okay, I don't want everyone to, after this does, to go home and say, "Oh, mom, I got magic," because the teacher said so. No, no. I'm saying if abnormalities, please, abnormalities. Also, if you feel a sudden pressure on your chest and you're finding it difficult to breathe, okay, we all of us get this. But like if it's a real abnormality, it's real tight squeezing of the chest, that could be a issue as well. And some people have said that if you see snakes or wild animals in your dreams, this could also be a sign that a person has magic. Okay, right. Okay, good. So those signs. Now, subhanAllah, time just flies, huh? Okay. Right, we're going to have to, next 5 minutes are going to be fast paced. Everyone ready with your pens and papers, inshallah. If you miss it, you're going to have to go back to the recording. Now, another element of magic, and this is the worst form of magic, is what's known as jinn possession. Okay, when a jinn enters the body of a person and takes control of their mental and physical capabilities, and they're possessed. Okay, and this topic, in Hollywood and Bollywood, they've made millions on this topic, and they produce films on this topic all the time. But this topic is not one for entertainment. It's a real topic, and people suffer from this. It's an illness. Okay, so not every magic equals possession. Let's understand that. Okay, not every magic equals possession. They're two separate things. So every possession is magic, but not every magic is possession. Right? I'll leave you to digest that. The jinn can overtake the body. Okay, the person can be controlled by the jinn. Okay, and this is the absolute worst form of magic. So magic has its influences. The worst influence, the strongest influence, is when the jinn enters the body and takes control of the body. Okay, sometimes the jinn can be partially in and out. Okay, where it irritates the person. Okay, this is possible as well. And you may read Quran. Okay, if nothing happens, then the jinn has disappeared. So some people, they pray and they fast and they read Quran, they go to masjid, but then they have some weird effects. This is like a partial possession, whereas some people absolutely know there's no way they'll be able to do any of that. That's a very strong possession, okay, where the jinn is actually living inside you, and this is the worst. And you have pains in your liver, pains in your chest, you have pains in your body, and the doctor just can't understand what's happening, and your health is deteriorating. That's because there's a potential that there could be a jinn inside you. Okay, complete possession. Even if we look at it from one perspective, when people commit major crimes, murder or whatever it is, and you ask them, at that moment in time, why did you do what you did? Why did you kill them? Why did you stab that person? Why did you shoot them? Why did you do what you did? Really evil thing. And how many times have we heard like major criminals? They say things like, "I don't know what came over me. I don't know what happened. I don't know something just took control of me." That's more likely a jinn or a shaitan just got into him. And we know that because the Prophet said that when a person is angry, the shaitan, it runs in your blood. Runs in your blood. That's why if you get angry, you should say, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim." And if you're still not controlling it, go make wudu. Why wudu? Because the Prophet said, water extinguishes fire. Okay, so he'll get out of your body. So it's nothing strange. Don't get scared that he's in your body. When we're angry, he's in our body. Okay, then he leaves. Okay, so there's nothing there. But it's the fact that he controls your body. That's the problem. Okay. But at the same time, I keep saying this, possession as well is also linked with mental illnesses. So someone could be bipolar. It doesn't mean they've got a jinn inside them. Somebody could just have a mental illness. It doesn't mean they have a jinn inside them. So please, 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 we have to understand the importance of mental illnesses as well as magic. We have to go through both of these procedures. Now, here comes the important part. How can we combat sihr? If we see elements of sihr on ourselves or in our families, in our children, in our husband or wife, how can we overcome this? Okay. First and foremost, we don't have the ability to do it ourselves. Only Allah can remove this test from us. Okay, only Allah can remove this test from us. Secondly, we cannot go to another magician to remove magic. That's also kufr. There's no such thing as white magic and black magic. Okay, that only exists in Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. It doesn't exist here. In Islam, there's only black magic. You can't go to a magician and ask him to fix a magic somewhere else, because what he will do, he will evoke another jinn to go tell that jinn to go away. So effectively, you've just committed kufr in order to cure one's illness. Not allowed. So we have to turn back to Allah, number one. So we have to change our lifestyles and we have to make tawbah stop committing sins. We have to become good people. Okay, so we have to, number one, turn to Allah. Number two, and this is the primary source of curing any type of sihr, it is the Quran. The Quran is the kryptonite to any kind of magic. The Quran, it burns the shayateen. Okay, especially there are certain surahs. Make a note of these. There is a proper procedure in way you can read the surahs, but I don't have the time for that now. But there are certain things you could use. Surah Al-Fatiha, the Prophet said it's a cure. Read Fatiha with the intention of ruqya, it will work. Read Ayat al-Kursi. Read the last verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. The whole of Baqarah is a cure. Surah Al-Falaq, Surah An-Nas. These are clear verses that were read and are read to cure magic. Learn them, read them, and they will keep you protected. Okay. The other topic of the raqi, going to someone to do ruqya for you. Okay. There is no harm in going to someone to do ruqya. It is best you do it yourself. But some of us, we don't have the strength to do that. So you can go to someone, but please, please make sure when you go to someone of ruqya, his aqidah is right. Okay, his aqidah is right, that he believes in Allah, believes in the messenger, and he doesn't do magic himself. How many times we go to a Maulana or a Pir or a Sheikh and he ends up making things worse? Okay, please avoid people that have a dodgy aqidah. The tawheed is not correct. Don't go to those people. Okay. Another reason some people say is, how can you tell that this person is going to do the ruqya, that he's not working, he doesn't do magic, or he doesn't do ta'weez and so on and so forth? I mean, what they say is the fact that he doesn't charge you money. He does ruqya for the sake of Allah. Okay, but at the same time, it's permissible for a raqi to charge. If his motive is purely money, then that's a problem. But if he charges for his service, there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. Okay, so we can pay for ruqya, but I would give a small bit of advice for those doing ruqya raqi. Please take it easy on people. Yeah, people can't afford extortionate prices when it comes to ruqya. The next point. Also, if the raqi you're going to, he does weird stuff, and what are the weird stuff that you need to watch out for? If he asks you for hair, if he asks you for nails, he's not curing your magic. He's not doing ruqya. He's a shaitan. Watch out. If he's doing other weird stuff, like he's sacrificing animals and things like that with other than Allah, don't. Watch out. Another very common way to find out if somebody does magic is they will ask for your mother's name. This is really weird. They will ask for your mother's name, and in due course, they will ask for your date of birth. These are the two bits of information that the shayateen ask the magician, and then the shaitan uses this bit of knowledge to go get more information. So if he's asking you for your mother's name or dates of birth, avoid him. He is not a raqi, he is a shaitan. Okay. Finally, one of the ways in which you can tell if a raqi is legit, okay, is very simple. One of the ways is that he prays 5 times a day. Okay, if you see a raqi, he never prays, just sitting in his dark room all the time, he's a shaitan. Stay away from him. Okay, I find this really absurd, but even Muslims from our own community, I've seen them, subhanallah, may Allah forgive us, but I've seen them going to Hindus and Sikhs and other pagans and asking them to cure magic. Subhanallah. What do you think these people are going to do? How do you think they're going to cure what you think is your magic? SubhanAllah, sometimes we are crazy. We are the problem to our own problem. Okay, so no, we go to a person of tawheed, of aqidah, and he will fix our problems. Likewise, if you see someone writing symbols on a piece of paper, wrapping them up, putting them into chains and things like that, he is not solving your problem. He is the problem. Okay, when you see weird numbers upside down and crosses on grids and boxes and things like that, that's magic. That's magic. Stay away from that. That's him doing magic. Ta'weez around your neck or things like that. Stay away from that. That is magic. Okay, we have to protect ourselves. Okay, one of the ways you can also protect yourselves, we mentioned the Quran, is also it's allowed that you write the Quran on a piece of paper. Okay, and you can put this piece of paper into water and you can drink it. That's perfectly fine. You can also read Quran on water, for example, or on something and then drink it. That's perfectly fine as well. Okay, the Quran is a cure. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to stop. There is still more that we can talk about, but I will leave that for another occasion. The topic of evil eye and jealousy, we'll deal with that when we get there. But in terms of magic, we've really covered our material. If anybody got any questions, couple of minutes, inshallah, before we go and get ready for iftar. Anyone got questions, please write them down. I'm here willing to take your questions, so write them down, inshallah. So while I'm talking for the next few minutes, I'm looking out for your questions. Another important point that we have to be aware of, brothers and sisters, is that magic is weak. Yeah, magic is weak. Inna kayda shaytani da'ifa. That the plots of the devils are weak. Allah tells in the Quran, they can't do nothing. Okay, so don't fear them. Don't fear. They are inferior to us. We are superior, not in an arrogant way, but in a factual way. We are superior. Okay, we have no fear. Worship Allah. Fix your aqidah. Have tawheed in Allah. Avoid these dodgy people. Stay away from magic. Stay away from evil things like whatever it is they're asking for. Purify your tawheed. Worship Allah only. Okay, and you'll find great changes in your life. Brother Azim Salam, what evidence is there for the opinion that jinn possession doesn't exist? Good question. So there are some people who say that jinn possession doesn't exist. Why? Because it's not mentioned in the Quran. That's why. Jinn taking control of a person's body is not mentioned inside the Quran. Okay, nor is it mentioned directly in the Sunnah. Okay, so jinn possession is not mentioned. Rather, jinn possession is affirmed by experience. So the Sahaba and the Tabi'een and the scholars, they saw these things in front of their own eyes, and they concluded that this is the effects of jinn. So by ijma', by consensus of experience, okay, they concluded that jinn possession takes place. There is no verse or hadith which tells us that jinn possession takes place. Yeah, that's very clear. That's why there are some people that deny jinn actually possessing a person's body. They say it's not possible. But great ulama of the past have said, and still to this day have said, that jinn can possess the body. And it's clear from our experiences, from the hundreds and thousands of people that we have seen, it's clear that there's something inside him. He is abnormal. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced this with my own eyes. I don't want to say too many stories, but once I remember seeing an elderly lady, the age of most of our mothers, in her 50s or 60s, and we were actually doing a ruqya session. It was a lecture on the same topic, and this lady tried to escape the lecture, so we tried to stop her because we could see something abnormal about her. And I remember very clearly that when I spoke to her, she spoke back to me in the voice of a man. A 60-year-old woman spoke back to me in the voice of a man. And then to hold her back, we physically tried to hold her back. There was like 4 guys, and you can see my size, there's about 4 of us, and we were trying to hold her back. Now, my minimal experience, I don't have much, but my minimal experience, I believe that this is possible, that jinn can take effect into a person's body. But those who deny it, they are still Muslim and they're still in the fold of Sunni Islam. They just want to go with the safer option because there's no text to say that. It's based upon experience. Okay, what about people who wear Ayatul Kursi in a necklace to protect from them? So, Sadia, that's a good question. Now, Taweez is different to Quran. The Quran has a special rule to it. We cannot put black threads or anything around our necks or arms or around the stomach or what people do. The Quran is a shifa. That if you do put Quran around your neck or around your arms, that's allowed. That is not kufr or shirk. It's not even a sin. But I would advise not to do that. I would advise not to do that because the purpose of the Quran is to read it and to implement it, not to decorate our bodies with it. It doesn't make sense. And likewise, if you have a chain with Allah's name on it and then you go to the bathroom, now that's even worse. Or let's say you're doing things where it's not befitting for that chain to be there. You're with your husband, you're with your wife, you're going to the bathroom, having a shower. Just it's just so many problems. Yeah. So I would advise that not to do that. It's just problematic. It's not haram, and they can act as a cure as well because it is the Quran itself. But I wouldn't advise to do that. Okay. So we've got a question here as well. Humaira, for many years my husband would. Sorry, I shouldn't read people's names out. For many years, my husband would do the opposite of everything I said. No matter how much damage it done financially, he has got better, but our financial position is not getting better. Whatever he tries to do, not work. We do not talk to his siblings, who we use to support financially, and he thinks they are still busy doing magic against us. We read Qul every day, but the situation is not improving. Okay, then in this case, what I would suggest, if this is the situation, then try to go to a Raqi, one with more experience. Okay, there are people, mashallah, with 20, 30 years experience in this. Try to get them to get involved and see what the matter is. Maybe you haven't made the right changes. Yeah, changes may include changing of place, changing of people, changing of environments, changing of food, changing of clothing. You maybe have not taken the right I'm not saying you have. Forgive me if I'm stepping, crossing the line, but just so other people can benefit as well. That maybe you haven't taken the right measures. So maybe see someone with more experience and skill, and they'll dissect your matter. How does a jinn? So how does a jinn can break up a marriage relationship? So he can break up a relationship in a number of ways. Number one, he can put hatred or dislike into the opposite, into one of the spouses. So, for example, the husband, every time he comes near his wife, she smells. Yeah, he puts a smell around it, she smells. So slowly gets put off. So she comes close to give him a hug, gets back. She wants to kiss him, gets back. It just smells something bad. Or, for example, he puts something in the eyes of her. So whenever she sees her husband, she remembers, a crocodile or a dinosaur or something. She remembers something. And she's like, oh, God. So her mood, she's never in the mood. She's never gets close to you because of what's been put. And these things slowly start to build up. So he can do these things in a number of different ways, but he causes this rift. Or he may even whisper in his head and say things like, oh, you know what she said about your mum? Then go to her and say, do you know what you said about your dad? And then things start to develop. So the shaitan can do that. What about people who were? So Mikhail, are there any examples of the times of Sahaba where someone actually got possessed by a jinn, as in entering his or her body, and he or she looked, acted physically different or strange? There was one story of one companion by the name of, I think, Tamim ad-Dari. Please, if someone can correct me, it's late, brain's just about working. I think his name is Tamim ad-Dari. He would act very abnormal to the point where the companions and even the Prophet ﷺ thought he was the actual Dajjal, that he was so weird and he used to do things that were so abnormal that they used to think he was the Dajjal because he's so abnormal. Okay, so his case is there. Azim Barakallahu Feek, Sadia, Jazakallah Khair, thank you very much. Hassan, is there any clear link with sihr effects and the level of a person's iman? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. So generally speaking, we can find that a person who's affected with magic will slowly start to distance themselves from Allah. Less prayer, less ibadat, less fasting, less Quran, and of course, the less of that you do, the lower your iman becomes. That's why you've got to push up the worship. You've got to try really hard. I know it's difficult. It's easy for me to say, but difficult to do. So yeah, magic forces your iman to go down. So you have to push the iman up, okay, and help the one who's affected to go up. What is your view? And psychologists and counselors, my opinion is very important. Very important. I believe the solution to this problem is to have experts in magic, in ruqya, I don't mean magicians, experts in ruqya, in this science, who are also experts in psychology and counseling, put them together. One person who has perfected both sciences, and then he treats people, subhanAllah, you'll see a huge difference, because then you will understand the matter properly. So that's a very good question, and I strongly encourage people to do that. Wallahi, all of us we're watching here, the amount of people that are affected with magic is so many, and the amount of people that are suffering from broken marriages and problems are so many, and we underplay it. We no one wants to admit it. We don't want to talk about it because it's embarrassing. But so many of us say we can tell us stories in our own household where these things happen, and unfortunately, many of our own uncles, our own aunties, okay, our own uncles, own aunties, they do magic. We have to accept that fact, and we need to change this. G, I found an egg in the garden which had symbols on it and a hole in the top. What is that? I don't know what that is. It could be someone just messing around, could be nothing, or it could possibly be magic. If you do find items that you may think that are magic, so you might find a taweez or something like that, the best thing to do is, number one, take it to someone who understands ruqya, and they will dispose of it carefully. If not, you can try to undo the knots, try to burn the piece of paper and get rid of things correctly, okay? So that's possible as well. Azim, we have to stop in the next 2 minutes. So I remember coming across a hadith, 70,000 of my ummah will enter paradise. Very good, Jazakallah khair. So 70,000 of the people of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will enter into paradise without any hisab, guaranteed Jannah, direct line, okay? These people are those who never depended upon human beings. They always had tawakkul in Allah, which means if you're afflicted with problems or magic or things like that, then the best thing to do is to worship Allah, to ask Allah for help, to do ruqya upon yourself. And if you don't rely on humans, you might fit into the 70,000 and you have no accountability on that day because you're self-sufficient and you rely only on Allah. Then inshallah you'll be accepted for that, okay? Can the shaitan put waswasa in a person's heart towards another person, even if it's not magic? Yes, he can. That's called waswasa. That's actually the whispering. Okay. In terms of ruqya, yes, Azim, in terms of ruqya, that's what I'm saying. So a person who does his own ruqya upon himself, that's tawakkul. That's the utmost form of tawakkul. Whereas if he goes to somebody else, he's depending on that person to fix his problem, which is perfectly fine. But the better is to do it themselves. Okay, inshallah ta'ala, on that note, we are going to stop. Okay, I'm sure your samosas and your ruh hafsa is waiting. We're not going to deprive you of that. So let's take a break here. Don't forget, brothers and sisters, the final thing, the dua that's made before opening your fast is accepted. If anybody has magic, anybody has sihr, bad, the ayn or nazar, anything, raise your hands right now. As soon as we disconnect, raise your hands right now and ask Allah to fix the problem. It will get fixed, inshallah. Okay. On that note, I'd like to conclude. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you. Can we do a class a little earlier next week, as I have to cook? Oh, sorry, I do apologize. Inshallah, 7 o'clock. I think 7 o'clock is a better time. Okay, so HMC, 7 o'clock I think is a good time, because we are really tight for time and people are going to have to just have ruh hafsa now. Okay. All right, TBNR, Fireblade. Okay, enjoy your iftar. Barakallahu feek, everybody. Thank you very much. Enjoy your iftar. I will see you next week at the same time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Make dua, inshallah. TBNR Fireblade, you still haven't changed your name. Assalamu alaikum.